Jacques Delors knows the EU's single currency, the euro, inside out, even the downsides. He's seen all sorts of European Union crises unfold, but the current problems surrounding the euro concern him deeply because they highlight the deterioration of the principles on which the EU was constructed. In an interview with Euronews, he expressed his anger, but also his pragmatism. The European debt crisis, he says, can be contained with the tools already available to the eurozone.
Monsieur Delors, bonjour. Dites-nous avant toute chose, quels sont les sentiments que vous éprouvez?
Firstly, could you tell us how you feel when you see the European Union project in such difficulties?
I'm worried, and I have regrets. I especially regret that when the euro became operational, during the decision-making in 1997, they rejected my idea for an economic policy coordination pact alongside the Stability and Growth Pact.
Who rejected it?
I think the heads of governments rejected it. If we had had that, the euro wouldn't have covered up mistakes made by certain people, but it would have stimulated the euro. And also, in discussions with each other, they would have noticed that private debt in Spain was mounting to dangerously high levels, that the Irish government was turning a blind eye to the mad deals made by the banks, etc., etc. But they didn't do it.
But why?
Why? Because, leaving aside this business of the Economic Policy Coordination Pact, which they're now coming back to in one form or another, but it's a bit late now. The problem which has arisen from the Greek difficulties is simple. Do we apply the no bailout, as written in the treaty, which states that there will be no systematic help for a state which runs into difficulties? Or does the Eurogroup feel that it is morally responsible for not letting the situation worsen in these countries, and that, being morally responsible, it takes political decisions to address the problem? That's the idea I've been putting forward, especially to the Germans, telling them, but we are collectively responsible. We cannot simply point the finger at the naughty Greeks.
You say that the idea of an economic government for the Eurozone, as proposed by Nicolas Sarkozy and Angela Merkel, would not be useful.
If Mr. Sarkozy and Mrs. Merkel supported the community method, if they didn't spend their time trying to marginalize the Commission and cover up the difficulties encountered by President Jean-Claude Juncker of the Eurogroup...
Is that what they're doing?
That's what they've done. They've tilted the system towards intergovernmental decision-making, but it isn't possible for 17 heads of government or finance ministers to define economic policy. We need to go back to the community method, give the Commission back its role in decision-making. If you marginalize the Commission, if you swap Mr. Juncker for Mr. Van Rompuy to do the same job, then nothing changes. I see an anti-EU attitude in these two leaders.
But the Commission, how shall I say it, they could have a bit of pride.
The Commission initiates. It can therefore make proposals. If these proposals are not accepted, it can explain to the press and thus to EU citizens. That's the threat I used when they wanted to put off adopting the Erasmus program. I told the President of the European Council, Mrs. Thatcher, you know, at our joint press conference, I'm going to say that you don't want this student exchange program. They changed their minds and backed the program. This is how a system can work. The European Parliament plays an increasingly big role, I'm glad to say. It works well. So it only needs a few adjustments for the system to get back to healthy working methods.
For you, the key is returning to the principle of reinforced economic cooperation. What would that mean?
I say you have to isolate the Greek case and deal with it. You can't simply say, punish Greece, or even just say, get out of here. Secondly, and most importantly, base actions on decisions we already made to try and support the euro, leading to the issue of eurobonds.
Mrs. Merkel says she's against eurobonds.
The governments have decided, via a small amendment of the treaty, to create a European stability mechanism. I suggest this mechanism be put in place by 2012, and I think this should issue the eurobonds. So in a practical spirit, I say it is possible to graft these eurobonds onto the European stability mechanism, which is the result of an existing intergovernmental agreement, so I wouldn't take any risks with the treaty. And secondly, I suggest that the European Investment Bank increase its operations and also issue eurobonds, not to consolidate the debt, but to cover future expenses.
If a lack of fiscal and budgetary union is what's destabilizing the euro to that extent, isn't the answer to be found in fiscal union?
I feel that we are building a union of diversity. But when we go from 27 to 17, meaning economic and monetary union, well then diversity has to take a back seat. Otherwise it's not possible. With the Single European Act in 1985, which I proposed, I said it is based on three principles: competition which stimulates, cooperation which strengthens, and solidarity which unites. Cooperation is the missing link. But if that doesn't work, or if the euro project ends and Europe simply becomes a vast free trade zone, a loose confederation, as the British say, or if they decide to make a new treaty with more federalism at the top.
But this Europe isn't speaking with one voice.
All these leaders who are talking, do they care that the presidency of the European Council is Polish? Do you think the way the Polish presidency is ignored is a good thing?
You think it's being ignored?
Yes, it's being ignored. And do you think that that is a good sign for Europe? Same thing with this scandal. Finland and Slovakia demanding special guarantees in order to take part in the Greek rescue plan. It's a scandal. As soon as Finland said that, the European Council ought to have met and said, no, that's not possible. It's the spirit being diluted, the community spirit in a way, the feeling of belonging to a collective enterprise. That has to be deplored. We Europeans, we're not just Europeans by law, because the EU makes us strong. We are Europeans in our hearts, and that's what's missing today.
Monsieur Jacques Delors, merci beaucoup pour cette interview.